Hey, what's up, guys? The Strong Boys 19 here, and I have a very special guest with me for this video. And this guy, his name is Zach, and he has a YouTube channel called Zach D Productions, whom I definitely will recommend to you guys to subscribe to his channel because his channel almost reaches 1,000 subscribers, and I believe that he deserves a lot more. So definitely check out Zach's channel and watch his videos. Give him a lot of the support. So today's video, we are going to be doing something that we haven't done before. As myself, I haven't done any video like this a lot, really, because a lot of my videos involve albums. But for today, me and Zach are going to be doing a track ranking, what we consider to be our top 10 favorite Iron Maiden tracks. So for those that don't know Zach, Zach, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Zach D Productions, and if you're looking for good content related to music and reviews, rankings, CD pickups, I do all that on my channel, and of course, subscribe to Greg's channel if you haven't already as well, which I'm sure you have at this point.
Awesome. So the way this is going to work out, guys, is that we are going to take turns which track is at what number. So we're going to go from number 10 to number 1. And I'm also, I should say, we're very interested to see what tracks are going to be in your top 10 list of your favorite Iron Maiden songs. So I'm pretty sure that my list is going to be very different to yours, Zach, and my list does involve the 3 eras from Maiden with Paul Di'Anno and Bruce Dickinson and Blaze Bayley. So let's just jump right into it. So what is your number 10, Zach?
Okay, so my number 10 is from the album Brave New World. There are many songs that I could have chosen from that album since I think that is kind of an underrated album, and I really enjoy that one a lot. But you know what? After giving some of the songs a listen, I decided at number 10, I'm going to go with Out of the Silent Planet. I think this is a very solid track that has very strong vocal performances from Bruce, and of course the guitar work is just outstanding, and I think there's just a lot to like about that song. So Out of the Silent Planet's got to be at number 10 for me.
Awesome, and I absolutely do think that Out of the Silent Planet is one of the other big favorites for me. I love how very catchy it is, and I think if I have to maybe, to my mind, which tracks I would pick from my least to favorite from that album in particular, Out of the Silent Planet is maybe going to be in my top 5, and it's just, to me, another one of the highlights from one of their very best albums.
Right. So what's your number 10?
Okay, so my number 10, this is a track that I think is very underrated, and it is from one of my very high favorites from the band, and that is The Unbeliever from The X Factor. Now, the reason why I put this at number 10, it is because I really do think it presents at a dark presence, and I really do like how, I guess, progressive the instrumentation really was, especially with the way Blaze sings his heart out onto this track. I really like the various drumming patterns to the diversity of the melodic guitar riffs. And I think that The Unbeliever is one of those tracks that deserves a lot of the attention here. I would have picked some of the other songs earlier from this album, like I would have picked maybe The Edge of Darkness or Lord of the Flies. I mean, there are some of these underrated gems on here, but I think The Unbeliever, every time I listen to it, it adds a lot of punch, and I really like the arrangement a lot. So that's why I would pick The Unbeliever as my number 10 spot.
Yeah, that's a pretty underrated song, I think, and a pretty underrated album closer. Um, yeah, definitely not a bad number 10.
All right, so awesome, and I think The Unbeliever as well should stand out as well as the other ones for closers like Hallowed Be Thy Name and Alexander the Great, and Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, of course. So I think that one deserves a lot of the love.
Yeah, for sure.
So what is your number 9?
Number 9 is from what I would consider my favorite Iron Maiden album, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. I would have to go with their song, The Clairvoyant. I just
Mm.
really like everything about this song, and I think it's pretty underrated too, especially with its intriguing instrumentation, especially with the guitar work. I mean, the whole band just does a fantastic job at everything they do in that song, and I mean, this song, I mean, it's definitely one of the best songs on Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, in my opinion.
Yeah, I do think that the Clairvoyant is definitely one of these later tracks from that masterpiece of an album to be really one of those great, tightest arrangements. And the Clairvoyant, especially with Bruce's vocal performances, this does have some excellent vocal delivery, and as well as the outstanding guitar work. Um, and I would definitely would say that the Clairvoyant is another highlight of the album, especially for the musicianship.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely agree.
All right, so my number 9, my ninth favorite track from Iron Maiden is Transylvania from the first album. Out of all of these instrumentals, this to me is easily one of the very best. And I would have picked Genghis Khan from the Killers album because that one's very close of being one of my top 10, but I had to listen back to both of the albums just to really clarify which one I prefer. But I think Transylvania is a wonderful instrumental, very catchy, and I do think that Stratton is a very underrated guitarist in Maiden, and I know that he didn't really last very long because of creative differences, and that's why he was out of the band. But Transylvania to me is always one of my favorites from the first album.
Yeah, that's a really good instrumental. And as a matter of fact, my number 8th pick is actually on their self-titled debut. So if you don't mind, I'll go ahead and jump right into number 8.
Yeah.
So at number 8, I'm going to go with Phantom of the Opera, which
Mm.
is, of course, from their debut. And you know what? This has always been one of my personal favorites from the Paul Di'Anno era of Iron Maiden. I think this song really does go to show how strong his era really was with Iron Maiden. I mean, yeah, he's no Bruce or anything, but I think that to me, this is one of the best songs of his era, just with everything about it, the intriguing melodies and the guitar work, and just the way the song is structured and everything. It's just absolutely fantastic.
Awesome. That is another really good one. And I was actually really going backwards and forwards of listening to some of the songs from this album, and I almost picked Running Free because that is another one where I really like the hook on this, especially on the chorus. But Transylvania, for me, always stands out as instrumental, and it's it showcases what Iron Maiden can really do as musicians at the same time, right?
Right. Yeah, for sure. And I think
Oh,
their debut doesn't really get the credit that I think it deserves, you know?
yeah.
Like a lot of people I think pay attention more so to Killers than they do their debut, but I'm one of the few people that actually do prefer the debut to their album Killers.
Yeah, it's really funny because while Killers does get a lot more of the love, and especially with Paul Di'Anno's vocals, that from what I hear, he has been massively improving, and his vocals were amazing on the album. But I think for the first album, the first Maiden album is more of a favorite, not because of the very punk rocky aspect. I mean, there's a lot of that sound on here, but I think for memorable hooks, not that Killers doesn't have any hooks. That album has a lot of it, but in terms of the tracks and more of the favorable side, I think the first Maiden album needs to get more of the love. And some people will say that this is one of their very best albums. Okay, so my number eight is again from the first Iron Maiden album, and that is Prowler, the opening track, because I think for a massive explosion of a track like this one for me really works out. They were just having, just the early aggressive sounds that they would later on find on later ones of their albums, but I think Prowler is a masterpiece of an opener, really, really catchy, and I do like the adrenaline that this track alone really stands so well, and I think that this is a type of song that I would say not many people would really cite as one of the best top five ones, or maybe, but I think with most Di'Anno Maiden fans, they would pick something in their top five as high favorites, maybe like from Phantom of the Opera to something like Genghis Khan or Murders in the Rue Morgue and Iron Maiden, the title track. But I think Prowler is another high favorite for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good song too. I actually almost picked that one for this for my list, but uh, I kind of decided that I would go with Phantom of the Opera instead, simply because I just enjoy that one more. So yeah, definitely a solid track. Um, so I guess we're on to number seven.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so at number seven, it's actually from the X Factor album. This is the only song of the Blaze Bayley era, and also the only song on this list that's from their 90s work. And the song that I'm going to have to go with is the Sign of the Cross from the X Factor. This is probably my favorite Iron Maiden track with Blaze Bayley on vocals. Just everything from its dark mood to its intriguing melodies to the drum work. I mean, the drum work is especially something that really stands out, of course. And Blaze Bayley's vocal performance, it's not bad. I think he sounds really good, especially in the chorus. And, I think if you're someone that's not crazy about the Blaze Bayley era, definitely give this song a chance. So Sign of the Cross has to be my seventh pick.
I will have to say that the Blaze Bayley era needs to get so much of the love, and it's really, I would say, a massive shame that at that time, not many people would give Blaze a lot of chances because, when Bruce Dickinson used to be, when Bruce Dickinson was hired for the next vocal delivery with Maiden's sound, I would say people were a bit on the fence with it because, I mean, there were some people that have really admired Paul Di'Anno's vocals a lot, but they really did not know what to expect with Bruce. But with Blaze Bayley, I still defend him a lot as one of the most underrated metal vocalists of all time. And he, while he does not have the best of ranges like on Bruce's vocal ability, but Blaze needs to deserve a lot of the love.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that because his era is, I guess, not as bad as people make it out to be.
Yeah. Okay, so my number seven. This is a song that is my personal favorite on here. I would have picked the single. I mean, I really like the single, but I prefer to hear some of the tracks outside of it. And loads of people would pick the final track from this album, but I'll have to go with the opener. And that is Caught Somewhere in Time from the Somewhere in Time album. Needless to say, Somewhere in Time, the opening track, really does have a definition of hearing some of the other amazing works of musicianship. And to me, the chorus on this song is another really memorable one. Um, and I know that this was mainly like a very sci-fi inspired album, but there's no denying that Somewhere in Time is another awesome song with so much presentation. And I love some of the other ones like Deja Vu, which I think is underrated, and also Sea of Madness, Heaven Can Wait, and obviously Alexander the Great. But I find Caught Somewhere in Time to be, I would say, a very diverse number. So that's why this is at number seven.
Definitely a solid pick. Yeah, Somewhere in Time was, I believe, my second Iron Maiden album that I ever heard, actually. So yeah, I remember being absolutely mind blown my first listen. So yeah, I guess we're at number six now.
Mm-hmm.
So at number six, I'm gonna have to go with Revelations from Peace of Mind.
Mm.
There were many songs that I could have went with from Peace of Mind, like Where Eagles Dare or Die With Your Boots On, and many others, but I don't know. There's just something about Revelations that just does a lot for me. Like this song kind of gives me, it also kind of gives me a Black Sabbath vibe. I don't know if anyone else would hear it though, but kind of does remind me of something that maybe Black Sabbath would have done in the 70s, but I don't know. It might be the song structure or guitar work, but it all stands out in this song. And of course, Bruce's vocals stand out. And I mean, it's a classic.
Yeah, I really do think that is a brilliant track. I would have added in Where Eagles Dare in my top 10 because I think that is another great song. And I think another underrated track from that album is To Tame a Land, which I think works as well as the other awesome closing tracks. I really do like Peace of Mind a lot, but I could really listen to Iron Maiden's other songs from that album a lot more than hearing The Trooper all the time. Not that it's a bad song, but in my opinion, The Trooper is, while it is still a great song, I think it's one of their most overrated tracks. But with your pick, that is one of the songs that I would listen to over that one. But hey ho, so obviously, guys, our list is different to each other's, and your list may be different to ours. So share your 10 favorite Maiden tracks. So, yeah. All right. So, my number six, this is another opening song, and this is from their comeback album, as many Maiden fans would say, The Wicker Man from Brave New World. I find The Wicker Man to begin the album really well, and I love the versatility with Bruce's vocals, and again with the melodic guitar arrangements, and as well with that chorus, very catchy. To me, this is another opening song on this particular album where it shows a bigger and fresher sound than the track of Future Real from Virtual 11. While I do like Future Real, but to me this is more of a powerful monster of an opening track. So I mean, The Wicker Man has been one of my main favorites ever since that I got into Iron Maiden, and I couldn't really do this song, you know, without putting it in my top 10 because this is one of my main favorite Iron Maiden songs of all time.
Yeah, definitely not a bad choice. I'd say it's one of the best songs from Brave New World too. Definitely works as a single as well, and yeah, definitely not a bad choice. All right, so I guess we're in the top 5 now. So at number 5, I'm actually going to go with the song that you had on your list.
Okay.
I think this is a first. But at number 5, I'm going to go with "Caught Somewhere in Time" from Somewhere in Time. Probably my favorite song on the album, and probably one of my favorite opening tracks from Maiden as well. Of course, this song just basically lets you know what you're in for the rest of the album. You know, it's basically Iron Maiden saying, hey, you know, we're using synth work now, and you know what, like, this is who we are for this album now. And but even though that's the case, even though it is kind of synth driven, it still has some fantastic guitar work and fantastic vocal work. Like you stated earlier, the chorus is excellent, and yeah, so this song had to make my list.
I really like how Steve Harris decides to be at an adventurous peak on that album, and we know that the Blade Runner movie was an inspiration for the album, and I think that the synthesizer elements work with that kind of atmosphere and presentation of what Steve wanted, and I think that Somewhere in Time, while it is one of my favorite Maiden albums, the more I would think about it, the more I will appreciate Steve a lot more with his versatility than just making Maiden tracks on a very heavy, dark subject matters. While a lot of it is great, but I think with some of the experimentalism that, to me, defines at one of Maiden's most unique ones, Somewhere in Time as an album is a great example for that.
I see, yeah. Yeah, I can probably agree with that.
Right, so we are, well, as Zach said, his fifth pick. These top 5 songs for me are like the cream of the crop for my main favorite Iron Maiden songs of all time. And before I go into my top 5, I would have picked one song from the A Matter of Life and Death album in the top 10 for nostalgia reasons, but the ones that are on my list, I would pick over it. The one track that I didn't put in the list was The Reincarnation of Benjamin Brigg. The reason why that one is not on here, I do love the track, but apparently that was one of the very first Iron Maiden songs that I had ever heard, and I was so hooked into that type of sound. But that's just a little quick plug for a bit of an honorable mention for me. But my number...
Not a bad song.
Yeah. And also Different World as well, and The Number of the Beast, and Run to the Hills.
Right. Yeah. Good songs.
Well, my number 5 is Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. Now, I always love this track because it's very progressive, and I do like the complex arrangements that this track delivers right from the start to the finish. The time signatures were perfect, and I love that dark, ominous bridge section with the sounds of the gentle hi-hats and the synths, and especially, again, with some of the most adventurous lead guitar works. This is always my favorite number on this album. I mean, Moonchild to Can I Play with Madness. The whole album's perfection, but Seventh Son of a Seventh Son as a song is one of the other essential masterpieces for crafting a song, and a very progressive one at that.
Yeah, definitely a great choice there.
Alright, so what is your number 4 pick?
My number 4 pick would have to be from the album that actually got me into Iron Maiden, or at least it was the first Iron Maiden album that I ever heard, which was Power Slave. And so the song that I picked from that album would have to be the opening track, Aces High. Of course, it's very catchy, and it's one of their best album openers, and some people might say it's overplayed, overrated, whatever you want to say about it, but I mean, I can definitely understand the whole overplayed argument, but I still think it's a very solid track. I mean, everything that it has to offer with the instrumentation, Bruce's vocal delivery, it's all just great. So Aces High is definitely a song worthy of being on my list, I think.
Awesome. Aces High, that is another wonderful opening track, and I think it presents Power Slave of what is going to become later on the album. And for a very political number, Aces High is always another one of their best in terms of the heaviness.
Yeah, I probably would agree with that.
My number 4 pick, this song I absolutely adore, and every time I listen to this, it just puts me in a vibe. And my number 4 pick is Dream of Mirrors from Brave New World, and there's just something about it. I think the reason why this is my 4th pick, I love the the very melodic vocal performances from Bruce Dickinson on here. The instrumentation, especially on the verse section, sounded absolutely beautiful, and I think that this is a song where it has an atmosphere, and there's a set of other Iron Maiden songs that have atmosphere in them, but Dream of Mirrors, I could really go on about this particular track,
Right.
but I think that other songs like Blood Brothers and also Brave New World are fantastic long tracks, but Dream of Mirrors to me is the highlight and my favorite track on Brave New World, so that's why this masterpiece is at number 4.
Yeah, I think that is one of the most underrated songs from that album. And correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Blaze Bayley also have some writing credits with that song, or is that with another song that's from the same album?
I believe that there are other tracks from that album that were in the writing on the Virtual 11 sessions when Blaze was in the band still. But I'm not really sure about Dream of Mirrors. I'll have to find that out.
Okay.
I mean, the information I believe is still on Wikipedia, but I think it's pretty mad that these types of songs were in the making at the same time as the Virtual 11 album. But imagine
Right.
if Blaze would have been doing the vocals on the Brave New World album. I think that that would have been something different. But I think now that with Yannick Gers was with Maiden, and to have Adrian Smith and Bruce Dickinson back, this is to me one of the other defining albums, especially with the lineup that was all complete with this album.
Yeah, it's definitely a solid comeback album. So I guess here we are in the top 3.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so at number 3, I'm once again going to go with a song that you chose earlier on, and that is Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, the title track from the same album, of course. I just really love everything about this song. I mean, if you know me well enough, I'm a big prog guy, so of course this song is pretty much up my alley, especially with the intriguing guitar work, and I mean, obviously the chorus is catchy, and that the solo at the very end is just like, if that solo wasn't there, I doubt that this song would probably be on the list, because that solo just really does, I think, give this song that identity, and that's what makes it great, I think. So I think it's a solid track, and probably maybe my favorite title track from Iron Maiden too.
Mm. I think that is a really good point because with title tracks of albums, Seventh Son has to be in the top five
Right.
because I think with that type of song, it's another one where Iron Maiden as a band can really pull things off with so much more of the diversity. And Seventh Son, I'm pretty sure that most Maiden fans would add that song in the top 10. So
Yeah.
it's one of the songs that needs no introduction whatsoever.
Right. Yeah. Definitely.
All right, so my number three, this one hits me for nostalgia reasons. Besides the songs that I have mentioned that were not in my top 10, but my number three is Fear of the Dark from the Fear of the Dark album. Uh, a very variety made album, but Fear of the Dark as a track really hits things as like the cream of the crop of closing tracks, and this has always been my favorite closing track from Maiden of all time. The really moody and dark, beautiful presentation with the instrumentation. It's wonderful on here. The vocals from Bruce adds in so much of its flavors, and again with just the impact that this song really does shine, and it's just a live staple as well. I mean, every time when Maiden play this live, the crowd always follows the guitar lines, and it just works as a song from start to finish. And this is one of the greatest Iron Maiden songs of all time, and that's why this is for me at number three.
I was kind of tempted on putting a song from Fear of the Dark on this list, but I might say that Fear of the Dark, the title track, is maybe an honorable mention for me. But I mean that album definitely has a lot of really solid tracks. I mean, you also got Afraid to Shoot Strangers and Wasting Love, and of course the iconic title track, which are all great songs. So it was really hard to not place any of those on this list because I think there's a really solid stuff on Fear of the Dark and some overlooked stuff too, like Chains of Misery, for example. But yeah, definitely not a bad choice. So here we are at the top two. All right, so at number two, I would probably have to go with what I would consider my favorite epic from Iron Maiden, and it is the closing track to Power Slave, and it is Rime of the Ancient Mariner. I mean, what can I say about this song that hasn't been said already? It's just absolutely fantastic. It's one of those songs that, yeah, even though it's long, it still keeps your interest throughout the song, especially with the vocal delivery from Bruce, the guitar work. I mean, the guitar work is really the main standout to me in this song anyways. And just the places it goes musically is just really fun to listen to. And to me, it's maybe my favorite closing track from Iron Maiden.
Awesome pick. And I mean, Rime of the Ancient Mariner, to me, one of the other highlights on Power Slave, and I think that particular track alone does provide, I think, another one of the musicianship aspects from Iron Maiden, because while I do love the instrumental passages a lot, and especially hearing the vocals, but with just the instrumentation, Rime of the Ancient Mariner has to be in there in terms of just the tightness and the crafts work of hearing everybody in the band all in a complete form. And Rime of the Ancient Mariner, musically, imagery wise as well, just a standout number from one of their greatest records.
Yeah.
My number two, my second favorite Iron Maiden song of all time. This was actually used to be my number one pick, and it is from the Power Slave album, and it is 2 Minutes to Midnight. I think 2 Minutes to Midnight, yes, being another one of their singles, but the reason why I would add in 2 Minutes to Midnight on here is because that it's such a hook-driven track, and I love the way the guitars on this track sound really quite aggressive. But there are other heavier tracks like Power Slave and Aces High. But I always admired 2 Minutes to Midnight, and the multi-tracked guitar harmonies as well, phenomenal, as well as the vocal performances from Dickinson. This was always my favorite number on Power Slave, and you know, I give the rest of the album a lot of the credit and the love, but 2 Minutes to Midnight was one of the ones that I used to hear and play quite a lot from Power Slave. So 2 Minutes to Midnight is now always my second favorite Iron Maiden song.
That's another song that I was kind of tempted to put in the top 10 list as well, because to me that's one of the other highlights on Power Slave. But yeah, I mean, definitely a very great song, and of course a classic. So here I am at number one. So at number one, I guess for now it's my favorite Iron Maiden track. I'm not sure, but at least for now I would consider it. I would not consider this necessarily a solidified list, at least, for now. But for my number one pick, I'm going to have to go with a song from Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, and it is The Evil That Men Do. It is one of their singles, and like with most Iron Maiden songs, it has fantastic guitar work, and of course the chorus is so memorable. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they usually play this one live. Definitely a lot to like about this song, and to me, it's easily one of the best songs from Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. Maybe my favorite of the singles on that album too.
Really good one, and I think The Evil Men Do, another one of the essential, very memorable hook-driven ones from that album, and in particular as a live staple for many Maiden fans, because The Evil Men Do just has such a brilliant delivery with the instrumental work, and again, Bruce's vocals are one of the best things about it. And just the whole album does have one of the greatest performances from Dickinson. But The Evil Men Do, to really shine as a song, is just another awesome track.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay, so my number one, my favorite Iron Maiden song of all time, and if it wasn't for this song that I did not expect to be my number one favorite, because 2 Minutes to Midnight, as I said, was my main favorite, but my number one favorite Iron Maiden song of all time is Sign of the Cross from The X Factor. I adore this song, and the way it starts, that really really low-keyed, atmospheric, very dark number, with the choirs to the gentle drumming and the opening bass lines from Harris and the guitar work, just sets up the anticipation up. And when the whole band hits the song immediately, I just love everything about it. And I think Blaze's vocals were fantastic. And not gonna lie, when I first heard the chorus to this track, and when I had heard Blaze's vocals for the first time on this track, I just smiled, because, to me this is a song with a chorus that I just really just could not get a hold of. It's just such a catchy hook. and the bridge section just brings in so much of the very big tension with the orchestra as well that works as effectively. The guitar solos just always were just outstanding. I just adore everything about this track. Just something progressive and an impending doom and ominous type of sound. And I think that Sign of the Cross with Bruce Dickinson, he sounds phenomenal, especially when you hear Bruce doing vocals on a bit of the Blaze Bayley era Maiden songs. He adds in, I would say, a lot more of the power, but Blaze's vocals with a song like this just makes this, to me, their masterpiece. And like the ones that are in my top 10, Iron Maiden have made many other masterpieces, but Sign of the Cross is, to me, one of my top 20 favorite metal songs of all time, and this song will just stay as my main favorite number one pick.
Definitely not a bad choice. I mean, even if it's a Blaze Bayley song, I can definitely respect that opinion for sure, because that's a song, even though it is one of the more popular Blaze Bayley Iron Maiden tracks, it's still a song that doesn't get a whole lot of recognition because it doesn't have Bruce or even Paul on vocals. I think it's a very great opening track, maybe another one of their best opening tracks.
Yes, so I could really talk a lot longer about Sign of the Cross, how much that song means so much to me. Inspired by the novel of The Name of the Rose, but, you know, Sign of the Cross will always still work for me as, to me, the very favorite and Maiden's greatest song. And especially with Dickinson on lead vocals, especially with the Rock and Rio live version. I mean, that is a wonderful live version of this classic, but I think for the album version, it just works out with me as my favorite song from Maiden, and for me, my favorite track on the X Factor.
Not a bad choice. I did want to ask, though, what is your opinion on potentially Iron Maiden like re-recording the Paul albums and even the Blaze Bayley albums with Bruce on vocals? Like maybe redoing the entire X Factor album, and even, you know, maybe even Virtual 11, and of course the first two with Paul Di'Anno.
I actually have never heard of that. Isn't that like a rumor?
I don't even think it's a rumor. I just thought of it lately, and I thought, like, wouldn't it be cool if Iron Maiden did something like that? In fact, I think the thing that really made me think of it was I saw this thing on YouTube. I think it was like someone like put together like these I guess live clips of the songs from the self-titled album, but with Bruce. And I don't know if they took like the crowd cheering out of it or whatever, but they basically put together the track listing, and it basically sounds like a re-recording of their debut album.
Oh.
I don't know if you ever saw or heard that, but it's actually really interesting.
I have never really heard of it actually. I'll have to find that out for myself. But yeah, that would be something very interesting to hear. All right, with that being said, guys, that is our list of the top 10 favorite Iron Maiden tracks. And let us know what you think of our lists in the comments down below. And like I said earlier on, share yours. Share your list of your favorite Iron Maiden tracks. And like I said on the introduction of the video, guys, I'll have to repeat it. Please check out Zach D Productions on YouTube and give him a lot of the attention. And his videos are really good stuff. If you If you're welcome, mate. If you are into the videos that involve a lot of metal albums to album rankings, a bit of the diversity, then I would advise you guys to check Zach's channel out for yourself, and I would recommend it.
Well, once again, thanks so much. And thanks for having me on the channel.
You're welcome, mate, and I'm pretty sure that we and anybody would be interested enough to do a collaborative video, because there's not a lot of videos that are involved in the collaborative stuff, but maybe we could do another video on something different in the future, maybe.
Definitely could, yeah.
Alright guys, so thank you guys for watching, and as always, I'll keep you guys posted for more videos in the near future.